Cali X Boxing, we in the building. It's Saturday, and it's Saturday on a holiday weekend. So I hope everybody is having a great holiday weekend. Many of you will be having an extended holiday weekend. So blessings to you. God bless to you and your family. If you're traveling, I hope you're doing well, and I hope you stay safe. Let me try to get this camera right. First of all, is the camera right? The camera's right. The microphone's right. Check, check. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Check, 1, 2. Cali X, hit that like button, hit the sub button. If you're watching this in the archive, as most of you will be, being that this is an odd time for me, make sure you're hitting that like button as you watch it in the archive. Most of you will be watching in the archive. It's Saturday. You know, I don't usually do the Saturday afternoon. So make sure you're doing that. And the analytics are great. I appreciate everybody that's been coming through and watching the channels, these style of boxing and ice channels, and the HCP network. Shout out War Mantis. What up? Shout out Low Blow Champ. He went from Battle Jack all the way down to JermEll. LOL. I don't know how to feel about this fight. So left field. I'll just tell you how I feel about it. And everybody's going to have their opinions on it. We'll go from there, and I'll be respectful. You know, not every fight's for everybody. And I'll tell people why this is happening, I believe, based off of track record. And that track record, I believe, will continue to go forward even past this. When people tell you who they are, you believe them. And this isn't just boxing anymore. This is life. When people tell you who they are over a certain amount of time, you believe them. And you don't trust them to make a 180 unless they do it over a certain period of time. So we'll talk about that. There's a reason I'm bringing that up. There's a reason I believe everything we're seeing right now is happening. And there's a reason that 2 undisputed fights aren't happening. And instead, we're getting a fight between 2 undisputed champions. And there's a reason that 2 guys currently are going to be fighting for Undisputed-less coming up. And let me say this, because channels accuse us of doing stuff and then people of doing stuff. It would be very easy for me if we have metrics and analytics on the back end and we see where the clicks are coming in from. That's why we know that people aren't getting alerts on our channels, while we started the email thing to alert people. What we also know is what people are clicking, what they're searching in order to find our videos. And Tszyu, the Tszyu fans, the Australian audience, have flocked to de-styling us and I. So it would be very easy for me to come on here, and it would have been very easy for me to title this video JermEll Charlo Ducks Tszyu and run up a bunch of clicks. Why do you not do that? Because it's not consistent. It's not the truth. It's I'm going to have to come back a year from now and explain to people those receipts when I'm saying something completely different a year from now, just to grab those clicks at that period of time. And that's what a lot of channels do out here. And we've talked about how these channels do this with Canelo Alvarez, the false narratives. And we talked about the phenomenon of them never looking up at the scoreboard and noticing how many narratives they've gotten wrong over Canelo just to drive up their clicks. Because the interesting thing about Canelo and YouTube is it's the anti-Canelo videos that get the clicks. It just is. It's a simple fact. You can just go look. It's the anti-Canelo videos that get the clicks. It's the anti-Canelo dudes who constantly talk about Canelo. Constantly. I've talked about that phenomenon last month. Constantly. Canelo. It's like, dude, can you give it a break for a week? Can you just go? These dudes are out there tweaking. Canelo hasn't announced anything in 6 weeks. Canelo. They're just tweaking. They're tweaking out here, and they're starting to short circuit. They're starting to short circuit out there. And I'll talk about that later on in this show. Is, you know, it was slick black fighters, and then Charlos. He doesn't want to fight the Charlos, and then he doesn't want to fight this guy, and then he's going to go over there and fight Bivol and Battle Jack, and then now he's not doing that, and now it's not the slick black fighters I want. They're out here short-circuiting. They can't keep track of what they were saying 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And they failed to look up at the scoreboard. They've been doing this for a decade. They failed to look up at the scoreboard to see how many things they've gotten wrong. They don't even know what they were saying 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. They've lost track. And my pitch to the chat and the people who will be watching this in the archives, I believe probably about 90% of the people will be watching this in the archive. And what I would tell you is don't argue with these dudes. Remain happy, because this is another thing I've noticed about Canelo fans and anti-Canelo people. And look, you don't have to be one or the other. You can be in the middle. You can be a Canelo detractor. Everybody has things you detract from. It's natural. Nobody's perfect. But that side over there, they're eternally miserable, perpetually miserable, just miserable, at least in this space, just miserable. So what I've noticed from going to Canelo fights and just observing pro Canelo channels is they seem to be just happy boxing fans. And I've talked about that phenomenon. Canelo walks in the door and he's got a built-in Mexican fan base and he grows it to a universal fan base. How does he do it? He just went out and got boxing fans. That's all it was. Your Canelo fan base is generally, outside of Mexican fans, is generally just boxing fans who just want to go to a fight and have a good time. That's it. And you trust him to hand over your money and let him do all the work. Just let him do the work. He's the one getting paid. So we'll talk about all these phenomenons and how I feel about the fight and the fallout with Tszyu and David Benavidez and where they go from here. What is the best option? No, a fighter 2 weights below and inactive. Why not someone in your division or at least close? Who? Throw someone out, Darren Till. Throw someone out. Who? And you're going to throw out Benavidez. And I'm going to explain to you, as we've explained in the past, why that fight's not happening. And you may not like the answer. You may not like why it's not happening in September. And you'll probably go on. I'm not talking about you, but just people in general who cannot let that go. Is I still don't understand how people can't trust track record. If someone tells you who they are over time, you trust them to continue doing that until they make a 180. There's a reason that fight's not happening in September, and it ain't because of Canelo. So who else? Morrell Jr. Benavidez is supposed to fight next. So who at 168 do you want to see him fight? The next top guy besides those guys was John Ryder, and he just fought him. So who else? Who would you like to see? And Billy? Is that really what you want? And Billy? Who in his division? This is like the questions I try to answer, and then you just realize that there's no answer in these questions because people aren't going to listen. Because slick black fighters, that was always the funny one, right? And you'd ask, okay, who's the slick black fighter around 168 you want to see him fight? Marcus Brown? And they'll throw out Charlo. It's like, okay, he's not slick. Jamal's not slick. JermEll's not slick. Great fighters. I love JermEll. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Mel. I'm happy he's getting this shot. Been a fan for a while. He's in my intro. But not slick. So black fighter. Okay, he's fighting a black fighter now. Now one of them's not active enough for you. And one of them's not in the right weight class. Okay, so who? I'm trying to answer these questions. And it goes back to what I explained last week is people don't really want answers to these questions. They just want to run you around in a circle and have you as miserable as they are. Who in his weight class would you be happy with? Because if it was in Billy, you'd be like, oh my God, he's fighting in Billy instead of Charlo. Oh my God, why would he do that? Now he's ducking Bivol. They can't keep up. They're short-circuiting. So who are the slick black fighters? Boo Boo Andrade. Shout out Logan Little. And we're going to laugh a lot on this channel, on this show, because we're happy. I was going out to eat last night. D-Style hit me up. He's like, emergency podcast. I got dudes texting me. Canelo's back. The Ginger King is back. They texting me, hitting me up my phone. And, my wife just bought a new vehicle. We're riding around and she's trying to listen to her music. I'm like, nope. We're celebrating Canelo coming back. And she's like, what are you talking about? I was like, we're celebrating Canelo. And I hit the mariachi music. I'm hitting that mariachi music. Mariachi Sol de Mexico. Mariachi Sol de Mexico. And we're bumping the mariachi music. And we're just happy. That's it. We're just boxing fans. So when big fights are announced, we just get happy. And the dudes who are often left out are going to stay left out because they're not out there putting in the work and they're being mismanaged. And we'll talk about that. Wish me luck, about to go see a property. Hopefully this is the one we purchased. Shout out my guy Chauncey. Prayers to you, my friend. And I hope this all works out for you, my guy right there. And I'll text you later. Canelo runs boxing. Nothing changes. That's right. Doesn't change. He still runs boxing. He's still the face. And you'll still have people short-circuiting over that. Saludo, shame on boxing, business of boxing. Shout out Jesus M. And like I said, if this fight isn't for you, fair enough. Fair enough. I get it. I understand. Some people are going to be like, this is too big of a gap. I don't like it. But what I'll pitch to you is, what are the alternatives? Put this in proper perspective. If you're signing a long-term PBC deal, a 3-fight deal, we know what Al does. We've seen the track record. He was not going to give Benavidez to Canelo on the front end. He's going to dangle that on the back end. And this is how the deals work with Al Heyman. It's the easiest fights on the front, the toughest fights on the back, and it's the guy that he wants to come out on top on the back, which is David Benavidez. And David Benavidez will continue to run this game to where he clout chases, to where he acts like he doesn't know what's going on the inside. And maybe he doesn't. Perhaps he doesn't. We got to throw that out there. But he's going to continue to say things like, oh, Canelo's ducking me, because it plays. It plays to the missing chromosomes audience out there. Canelo's ducking me, Canelo's ducking me, Canelo's ducking me. And this is all part of the plan. That's how this works. Stop texting me, woman. JermEll is solid. If he can show up in 100, it can be good. Tired of these big fights where one or both guys have been out of the ring over a year. And once again, PBC. I talked about this on D-Styles channel last night. Is the issue that the PBC has is they don't build sustainable stars before the big fight. They have guys limping into big fights. Their track record, if you look at their record, somebody brought this up last year, and I was trying to find it earlier. I believe the PBC around the Wilder Fury time 2 years ago was 3-18 versus top-ranked fighters. Something abysmal like that, 3-18. And the reason they can't win these big co-promotional fights is they're simply not putting in the work and sharpening their swords before these big fights. They're almost handicapping their own fighters by running the game in which they have to play it safe with their fighters in order to get them to the big fight. They don't do it the old school traditional way in which you just put on the fights that people want to see, and then you're going to accidentally just build stars. You don't even know who it is at the time, but you're going to build somebody. Unbeknownst to you, if you take fights off of paper and put them into reality, you'll create stars you would have never imagined would be there. Never. Boxing is littered with dudes who were not supposed to be stars, but over time, they just won that fight, got the exposure, fought consistently, won some upsets, and became a star. PBC doesn't do that because they have to keep their fighters safe before that. And Mel is the exception to that rule because he was in top fights at 154, and that's why I'm a fan. But the problem is they thwarted all that momentum in that by the time this fight comes off, it'll be 13, 14, 15. It'll be like a 16-month layoff at that point. By the time Spence fights Crawford, it'll be a 15-month layoff. Things take too long to develop over there, and they send their guys into big fights limping. They don't have the momentum. Mel, apparently he had a hand injury that was big enough to keep him out of the Tszyu fight, but not big enough to keep him out of the Canelo fight. I don't know. Read into that what you want, but I'm not going to steer away from the track record of Mel. He's a real one. He fights the fights. I have to trust that despite what I'm hearing on the back end, he would have fought that Tszyu fight. I'm just going to trust that. Had the Canelo fight not become available, he would have fought that Tszyu fight. I'm certainly not going to feel sorry for dudes who continue to drop the bag. Benavidez drops a $10 million bag on the scale. And they're going to have you out there believing the other side that if Benavidez would have had a belt, Canelo would not have fought for Undisputed. And once again, the problem with that and the uphill battle they have is it's a faulty narrative. Why? Because it goes against track record of both fighters. They'll have you believe that Canelo gets lineal and he gets 3 belts, and all of a sudden David Benavidez is there with the last belt and he's going to stop and go in another direction. Good luck with that. And like I said, you don't try to battle them or talk them out of that anymore. We address it. We address false narratives. Like I said, the 5% rule, we got to swerve over there and push back on those narratives. But directly, we don't go over there anymore and try to challenge those guys. We gotta let them just short circuit over there. And the reason we don't do that is we got to stay happy. We're just boxing fans who are happy. And for the boxing fans out there who have boxing fans, there are channels out there who are just miserable about everything. And since Canelo is the face of the sport, they're just naturally going to be negative about that too. So I see these dudes drop all kind of videos all the time, and it's just negative, negative, negative. Why do you have a boxing channel? Why? And it goes to, I've talked about this in the past. I don't think a lot of dudes are here for boxing. Boxing talk is their Trojan horse. They've seen other channels do it, other big channels do it. They come in boxing, and then once they build an audience, they start talking about what they really want to talk about. Boxing talk is their Trojan horse into whatever they want to talk about. And what I would tell these channels is go to hell. Drop your boxing talk. Why are you talking boxing if you're not a fan of boxing? So there's that as well. It's a business of boxing to make money. How much money will Charlo make? I'm sure he will make a ton. Next 2 fights need to be Benavidez or Andre. I mean, Benavidez on Cinco is the money fight, if you ask me. I would tell you, what I would tell you is get ready for September 2024. That's what, from what I'm hearing, that's what I would tell you. And Billy, Jesus, really? Jesus, listen to me. You're a good dude. Listen to me. If Canelo would have signed to fight in Billy, what do you think the reaction would have been? Jesus, come on. Diego Pacheco. What do you think the reaction would have been if Canelo would have signed those fights? Come on, man. Come on. PBC was just going to give Canelo the 1 fight he would have wanted, Benavidez, so they get the 3 fights with Benavidez on the back end. It's easy. It's easy. Beck the Bully. You want to know what would have happened if Canelo would have signed to fight Beck the Bully? Canelo's fighting a dude that was knocked out by Gabe Rosado. Oh my God, what a bum. What a bum. Come on. Come on, Jesus. Mongia. And how about this? Why doesn't Better Be a fight Bivol? I don't know. Do you not like my singing, Haplo? Do you not like the singing? Are you not entertained? All right, let's get back down here. Diego destroys Canelo. Okay. All right. I think we see, Jesus, what's going on here. Name the channels you're talking about. I'm not naming the channels. Is Benavidez going to get another PBC mystery injury to let the steam off of making the Morrell fight white flag? Now, this is the interesting thing about all of this, Nando, that I'm still trying to figure out. We talked about the chaos amongst the Benavidez team. I believe that it will be seen over time that I want you to notice something. Samson's been quiet, right? And there's a reason for that. There's a reason Samson went quiet. Samson was making the rounds on YouTube. There's a reason he went quiet. That I know. And I know why. I'm interested to see who Benavidez fights next. And it will tell us a lot. If Benavidez is not going to fight Munguia and Berlanga, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So who are you left with? You're left with some guys at 168. Morrell Jr. is the guy they've been saying. We have an agreement with Morrell Jr. And this is part of the chaos, right? Is we have an agreement with Morrell Jr. on the front end. We got a 3-fight deal, Morrell Jr. Plant, Morrell Jr., Boo Boo Andrade, possibly Charlo. This is the stuff they're saying out there. And then last week, Morrell Jr. calls out Benavidez. Why? Because Benavidez is out there saying what? I don't have an agreement. What's this agreement you're talking? I've never heard of this agreement until today. Apparently, you don't know that your promoter is out there for 4 months saying that you have an agreement with Morrell Jr. It's part of the chaos, right? And like I said, trust the track record. Always trust the track record. Always trust the track record. Chaos before, chaos now, history of marinating fights. You know, when a promoter comes out there and during the time, what was he saying? We're trying to make the Caleb Plant fight. We're trying to make the Caleb Plant fight. And then after the fight, he comes out and admits, I marinated that. I marinated the fight for 5 years. Trust the track record. When somebody tells you who they are, when a dude comes out with 12 gold chains, he's doing this slick talk. He's saying one thing in one language, another thing in the other language. He's talking like a used car salesman spinning the odometer back. I would not buy a used car from that dude without Carfax. Even with Carfax, I wouldn't buy a used car from that dude. And I'm supposed to trust that he sent some $45 million offer. When the next day he said, no, I didn't send it. PBC doesn't send offer, blah, 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 blah. He's always contradicting. But Benavidez, what goes next? What's next? Who's in Billy? That's what I'm saying. Diego destroys Canelo. Shout out from East Los Angeles. Shout out to you. Mexicans for GGG, some bitter ass dudes. And there's some good dudes who are Mexicans for Golovkin. But I know what you're talking about, Nando. And it's part of those narratives, right? It's before the Golovkin fight. I remember this because I was here at the time. Different channel, I was here. And I remember the dude saying he's not going to fight Golovkin. Golovkin's the Kazakhstani monster. And I like Golovkin. Full disclosure, cheered for Golovkin in the first fight. Cheered for Golovkin in the second fight. Full disclosure, cheered for Cotto over Canelo. It took me a while to get there with Canelo. I was still a fan during those times. I was just happened to be a bigger fan of those guys at the time. And I'm glad that Canelo won those fights. Glad looking back at him that he won those fights. The second fight, I'm glad he won the Cotto fight because the right lineal champion at middleweight showed himself because Cotto was never going to fight that fight with Golovkin. Canelo fought it. And I remember it. Canelo's not going to fight that fight. Canelo's not going to fight that fight. Canelo's not going to fight that fight. And then he signs, and then you start to see that energy shift. In full disclosure, I had Golovkin winning the first fight. But the point is, he fought him, then he fought him, and then he fought him. The dude you said he was going to duck, fought him. Roberto Diaz told me. I tried to talk him out of Erislandy Lara and the Austin Trout fight. He fought him. He fought Mayweather. Mayweather told him, you have to fight on my undercard against Austin Trout. And Canelo said, okay. I want assurances that I fight you next. Mayweather says, we don't do that. Canelo says, go to hell. And he does the fight on his own. In San Antonio, they do over 40,000, sell over 40,000 tickets in 6 weeks, and he fights Austin Trout for half the money and wins the fight. This is who we're talking about. So over time, you see that track record and you trust that he's going to fight the fights. So I'll be damned. If all of a sudden in 2023, I'm going to see how this is playing out and I see the chessboard. I see it. It's easy to look at. It's easy to observe. It's easy to see how Al Heyman is running this, what Al gets out of it, what Canelo gets out of it, what the Charlos get out of it, and JermEll drops the bag once again, but JermEll picks it up. Jamal's going to fight a tune-up, I think, and then possibly get the Canelo fight next year and try to get retribution for his brother. And Benavidez on the back end. And the good news for the Benavidez fans, the temporary ones, because there are good Benavidez fans out there, just Benavidez fans who like how he fights and are real about things. Good dudes. I'm not disparaging Benavidez fans in general. I'm just talking about the temporary ones, and people know what I'm talking about. It's the Mexicans for GGG crowd, right? It's those type of dudes. The dudes who can't keep it a buck. The good news for you is as long as Benavidez carries his own water and does his part in Al Heyman's little game here, he gets to fight next year and he gets it on his own terms. What do I mean by that? They've been telling us, the Benavidez temporary fans, Benavidez, Sampson, they've been telling us the longer you wait, the worse it is for Canelo because he gets older and and Benavidez is in his prime. Fair enough. Fair enough. You're getting it on your own time scale. You're getting it. Billy Joe Saunders wants a 22-foot ring. Give it to him. Fuck it. Give it to him. Caleb Plant wants to fight in November. He wants $10 million. He wants it on Showtime. Give it to him. Give it to him. Al Heyman wants a 3-fight deal. He wants this. Give it to him. Just give it to him. I'll fight whoever you want me to fight. Whatever you want me to fight. And this is why we can't spend too much energy on these dudes out here, because if he would have fought Bivol in a rematch, I don't want that fight. It sucks. I don't want that fight. And then if he doesn't fight Bivol, now he's ducking a Bivol rematch. I'm not going to watch it, but I will be locked in for Big Baby later. And by the way, I took the over on that fight. The over is 3.5 rounds. Big Baby fights tonight. I'm not sure how locked in Big Baby is from some interviews I've been seeing, and Charles Martin's a late replacement who looks in shape. So I'm taking the over of 3.5 rounds in that fight at even money. And oh, by the way, betting odds, I'm seeing from 2 reputable sites. I haven't seen any betting odds on websites yet, but I'm seeing from 2 sites who write about betting that Canelo is going to open up as a 2-1 favorite against Mel Charlo. And that surprised me. And I think that's going to surprise a lot of people out there that Canelo only opens up at -200 if this is true. If this is true, it's Canelo -200 and Mel Charlo +160. And they're giving Mel Charlo a lot of respect if those are the opening odds. It's 2 things. They're giving him respect. And then the second thing is this is sort of where we're at. The odds makers are at with Canelo at this point. In 2021, I spoke about this often. He was overinflated, overvalued in odds. 5-1 favorite against Dimitri Bivol. I think it was like an 8-1 favorite at some point against Caleb Plant. He was overinflated. Now I feel like you can find value in Canelo at this point. If this is -200, if Canelo's only opening up as a 2-1 favorite against Mel Charlo, I think that's your value. And I'm going to pour a lot of money in on Canelo for that because I think there's a lot of value in that. Canelo will eat them for breakfast. Pay attention to the body punching in that fight. Here's the thing. Mel Charlo has a 4-inch reach disparity. I don't call it an advantage because Canelo and a lot of fighters don't know how to use their height anymore. And good technical shorter fighters know how to use a fighter's height against them. And this is a fight where Canelo is going to use his girth, I hate to use that word, or size, stockiness, muscle to back Mel up. And Mel is what? He's an economical puncher. Mel throws mid-40s, and that's where Canelo's at. Typically, when you see guys move up a weight class or 2 weight classes to challenge another fighter, you look for advantages that typically you would see from a smaller fighter. Quickness, reflexes, legs, lateral movement that just aren't there for this fight. And I think that's the uphill battle. And I like Mel, but I think that's the uphill battle he's going to have in this fight, is those advantages aren't going to be there for him. And Canelo is going to start digging into that body as the fight goes on. And I think Mel's going to have more success early in the fight than people think. I don't think this is going to be the bloodbath early on that D-Style seems to think, that he's going to get his face broken and all this stuff. I give Mel credit. Mel's that dude. Mel's going to come to fight. He's going to come to fight. And he's going to land some pot shots off the ropes. The issue is you're dealing with the guy who's gone 47 rounds with the likes of Golovkin and Kovalev, so you're not going to equalize the fight with big punching, with big pot shots. He's going to start to come forward and do what he does in the middle round, step up his output. He's much like Tank in that way. He starts to time you, ups the output, and he's going to start digging into the body of Mel. And I think that's going to be what really gets to Mel is those body punching. That body punching. Canelo loves fighting taller fighters. He just does. Look at Virgil Ortiz. Same age difference between him and Bud as Canelo and Triple G, but didn't have the demonization thanks to Spence being there to take the heat. Yeah, and you know what else is interesting about this is Canelo is younger than Mel Charlo. It's only observed that he seems older because of the experience. He's got 63 fights. He's got almost 3 times the amount of fights as Mel Charlo. A lot of experience. Been around for a lot longer. Turned pro earlier. And he does have more wear and tear on him. But he's actually younger. Luke Rockhold. I don't know who Luke Rockhold is. Just playing, but you look like his brother, so I don't know who that is. Team Benavidez wants the fight ASAP because they don't. Any of Morrell are making 168 another year. Better Beef and Bivol ain't no fun either. And here's the thing, Nando, is dudes are going to be out here saying, why doesn't Canelo fight a 168 pounder? So let's see what Benavidez does here. And this is the energy shift I talk about. And I've noticed this with the temporary Benavidez fans and the Canelo haters this past week when the 3-fight deal was announced with PBC. If I had Benavidez's ear, I would ask him 2 things. I would ask him, does it bother you that fighters who are being advised by your advisor, same advisor, are getting the fight that you want now? You said you wanted this fight now, but other fighters who are being advised by your advisors are getting that fight before you. Does that bother you? Number one. And I would follow that up with, because I'm pretty sure I would know how that goes. I would follow it up with, do you think perhaps that you're being used as a pawn to get Canelo over for a multi-fight deal? Those are the 2 things I would ask Benavidez that nobody's asking. Nobody's asking. I see the Benavidez interviews, and I know why nobody's asking, because Benavidez's interviews get clicks. Sampson's interviews get clicks. And YouTube video, outside of like Fight Hub, dudes aren't going to get YouTube videos. YouTube channels are not going to get the Canelo interview. They're just not. He doesn't do the interviews with the YouTube guys. Whether that's good or not, I don't know, but he doesn't. So the dudes will get the interviews with Benavidez, and they will start to let him talk, and they don't want to push back because they don't want to lose access to that interview. They don't want to lose access to those clicks. And I'm not seeing anybody ask these questions. Why do you think it is that fighters that are advised by your advisor are getting the fights before you when the fans are calling for the fight with you? Why do you think that is? And I'm pretty sure I know why he would ask that question. And then I would ask that follow-up question. Is it possible that your advisor is using you for leverage to get this guy over for a multi-fight deal so he can subsidize his company for the next 5 years with that margin that he's going to get in the next 3 years, next 3 fights? Those crazy margins he's going to do. And that's what I would ask. And I think that's what people need to be out there asking. And I know why they're not asking it. That line will get steamed up quickly. Mel's a live dog. Canelo just to win is great value. Mel is a thunderous puncher. He can stop guys with 1 punch. We've seen that. Different weight class and a dude with the chin. I'm just saying. I don't see a stoppage here. He's going to have to win 7 rounds. Charlo had issues with Castaño in both fights. The second fight, he did not. Charlo looked beautiful in that second Castaño fight. I mean, he looked beautiful. He made the proper adjustments, and he steamrolled Castaño. That was a thing of beauty. I'm excited about this fight, but don't be surprised if JermEll is looking down at Canelo at their first face-off. Dude is good at cutting weight, and he will be. He's 4 inches taller. So in Charlo's fights, I did not see body shots on him. Salute to JC in the building. Very good assessment of Charlo versus Canelo. Appreciate you, Michael. JermEll got to box a perfect fight to have any chance. I would agree with that. He's got to have a great fight. And I think it's 2 things. He's got to have a great fight. And also, I think Canelo's got to be further on a decline than people think in order for Charlo to pull this off. Canelo only does interviews with ES News. Does he really? He doesn't with Ellie? Shout out to Ellie Sekback. JermEll has more pop than Bivol on his shots. Canelo's got to shell up and have a very hard fight. We'll see. Mel durability and Canelo fatigue down the stretch is going to play an important part in this fight. Wouldn't be surprised about an upset. And that's one thing is Mel has stamina. He's got stamina. That he does. If you look at his CompuBox numbers, and I was looking through them last night, once again, because I'm a nerd. I'm looking at CompuBox on a Friday night. What a nerd. But I'm looking at a handful of his fights, and his activity level kind of goes up and down, but late in fights, he'll throw in the 50s. And he's averaging around 40, but you'll see him in the 50s late in fights. So he's got durability. You're right about that. Dude throws calculated haymakers, but doesn't leave himself open. I don't see it being too big of a factor. Give Espinosa and Heyman the Devils their due. They're fighting to keep their doors open, unlike HBO boxing, sad to say. And you're right. You're right. Had they not landed this deal, I think they're in pretty big trouble. So this is the one dark cloud in this is you have a lot of guys, myself, who have been critical of the PBC and how they run things and our frustration with that. And the one issue with this is the great thing is they're making great fights this year. They just are. They're making great fights. And the other great thing is as critical we are as of Showtime boxing, as critical as we are of Showtime Showbox and what they've come to, just been a crap product, not doing good ratings. They're still second to none currently with pay-per-view and a pay-per-view product. We put on DAZN and we purchase DAZN and we got to purchase it again and purchase it again. And then they don't give you refunds. You hear reports of that. Then we're watching commercials in between rounds with them and ESPN. Showtime, I've been critical of a lot of things. I've been critical of their commentary, been critical of their talking heads. But one thing is currently, and it's almost the tallest midget competition at this point, but as far as pay-per-view products, they're still putting out the best pay-per-view product. A reliable pay-per-view product. Now, they don't have much else going for them currently, but Canelo's about to subsidize a lot of that. And that's the drawback of this deal is it's going to subsidize a lot of shitty fights. It just is. And this was Heyman's third go-round with this try of luring Canelo into a multi-fight deal. We talked about that, right? We've talked about how Charlo has dropped the bag twice now. He turned down a fight in 2019 with Canelo, and now he's turned down a fight in 2023. I'm not ready. I need a tune-up. I'm not ready. Go fight my brother. He's the Fredo Corleone of the family. He's just fumbling bags out here. He can't get it right. He can't get it right. He's talented, but he can't get it right. Michael and Sonny are doing their thing, and then Fredo's over there fumbling the bag. He can't get it right. He's trying. He just can't get it right. That's Maul. He's Fredo. He's a Tito Jackson right now. That's what he is. But Mel gets the shot. Mel gets the shot. But this is the third go around that Al has had to get Canelo into a multi-fight deal, and he's finally gotten it. He's finally gotten it. He tried with Plant. He tried to dangle Plant out there and Plant's belt and say, no, we're not going to do it September. We're not going to do it on DAZN. You're the A side. I understand you're A side, but if you want this final belt, you got to do it on our terms. And every other fighter out there, and they'll never give Canelo this credit, but every other fighter out there would have been like, go to hell. You got to do it on my terms. I'm the A side because of what we're told, right? We're told that the B side has to go along with whatever the A side is. We were told that all the time with Tank and Ryan, even though Ryan brought in more of the buys. He was the B side. He's got to go along with the rehydration clause, the catch weight, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But what did Canelo do in that spot? He said, throw him a couple more million. 10 million plus pay-per-view upside. Give it to him. Showtime, you want me to come to Showtime? Okay, whatever. Eddie, I'll be back. I'll be back with all the belts, Eddie. I'm going to go over here to Showtime for this one fight. Eddie's like, go ahead. So he goes over to Showtime, and he fights in November instead of September. And he says, go to hell on the 3-fight deal. We're going to do 1-fight deal. If you want the fight, let's do it. That was Al's first try. He tried to use Caleb and his belt as leverage for a 3-fight deal. Then he comes back around next year and says, Jermall Charlo, Errol Spence 164, David Benavidez on the back end. 3-fight deal. Canelo's like, I'd rather work with Eddie. I'm going to go take the tougher fights for the same amount of money. I'm going to go over here, fight Bivol, and I want to tie up loose ends with Golovkin. You know? And then he says at the time, there are receipts out there. Go on YouTube, type it in. He said last year after he signed the Matchroom deal, I'll explore. You know what? Next year, I'm going to go to the PBC and I'll run through their guys then. That's what he said. It's right there. Search it up on YouTube. It's right there. And true to his word, he comes back around and does it. But Al throws him another 3-fight deal. Benavidez over here. You want the Benavidez fight? Fight my other guys on the front end. Here's 150 million plus pay-per-view upside. And I was like, all right, whatever. This is what people want, right? People didn't want the Bivol rematch. Bivol's not acting like a dude who wants to rematch. That's the most baffling thing to me, by the way, is your fighter of the year in 2022. And Nando, I'm gonna get to your comment in a minute, and I'll get to other comments, but I don't want to lose this train of thought. And I still got to talk about what Benavidez is going to do next. Bivol drops the bag. And I couldn't believe it when his manager is out there. And his manager's out there saying, we don't really want the Canelo fight. You know, we got other options. I know why he's doing it. I know why he's saying this stuff. I cannot believe they dropped that bag. I cannot believe they didn't fight another fight before this. And now they're sitting there with no options and no fights in 2023 so far. I cannot believe they did that. But Canelo's hearing this stuff from American boxing fans. He may even be searching YouTube and seeing this stuff. And he's like, all right, wait a second. I can go over here and fight the tougher fights with Bivol and Badu Jack at catch weight of cruiserweight, whatever. Or I can go to the PBC, make the same amount of money, maybe even more pay-per-view buys, more marketable fights in America. And they're actually easier fights stylistically. What am I going to do? He's taking the PBC deal. And I'm glad he did. I'm glad he did. As critical as I've been of PBC, and I said it before he signed the deal, I hope he takes the PBC deal. And he does. Calix, the Clubberlang of YTBC, always in the research, Jim. You're the chump that don't know where I come from. You have no idea how little I want to be reading CompuBox numbers on a Friday night, but my brain's not wired to just shut it off. I don't know. But we're going to be happy over here. Shout out to Nando. Appreciate the super chat. Much respect. Cali Boxing and chat stopped in to show support, working and listen. Shout out to you, Tony Boswell. Always appreciate you coming through. Mel will give Freckles a good fight. He's an action fighter, and he is, man. That's going to be a fun fight. It's going to be a fun fight. And so is the Maul fight if that comes off. So is the Benavidez fight if that comes off. And more on Benavidez in a minute. I don't see Canelo being able to counter the faster fighter if he waits in his shell. We shall see. We shall see. I like to see Benavidez versus Ryder or Skull. I'd like to see him versus Morrell. I'm going to touch on that in a minute. Spence is juicing. I just don't think Benavidez versus Morrell happens because he said they sent 3 contracts out. Let's see what we got. And those are all good comments, Tony. Opinda, Gates, I appreciate this. I always appreciate the super chats. I appreciate this, man. Appreciate the dudes giving the super chats and just anybody commenting out there. Always appreciate the support. Benavidez. What happens with Benavidez? I talked about what happens with Tszyu last night. Tszyu is going to be fine. WBO ordered that they have to schedule something with JermEll Charlo by September 30th. Obviously, that's not happening. Glenn Jennings has come out and said, we were misled. We were just misled. This has blindsided us. We thought we had an agreement. He told us earlier in the week that they're coming to America. They're going to fight in October in Las Vegas. They're just waiting They're just waiting for the PBC to announce the fight. That's all they're waiting on. Everything was tied up. And then obviously they were blindsided. They were blindsided by this. Now, Maul Charlo was supposed to be the guy. D-Style seems to think, and this is where we have sort of difference of opinions, is I'm not so sure that fight would have come off. I tend to think that Mel Charlo was always in the mix for Canelo in a 3-fight deal, since Spence is now tied up with Crawford. What was the deal last year? It was Maul, it was Spence at 164, and it was Benavidez. What's different this time around? Spence is tied up with Bud for 2 fights. So you got Maul, you got Mel, you got Boo Boo, you got Benavidez. I tend to think that Mel was always a part of this situation. And the fact that he was moved in his brother's place in a week's time tells me that he might have been the second fight of this deal. I could be wrong about that. I don't know. And what I know about the PBC and Al Heyman is they don't build fights the natural way. As I've talked about, they have fighters who limp into big fights. Long layoffs. They keep them safe before the fight. I've talked about traditionally, you've always had those sketchy fights before the big fight. Yeah, you know, we're going to make this fight next, but he's got to get past this one. I talked about that with Cotto. I followed Cotto's career closely because I was a huge Cotto fan. And he had to get past Clottey to get to Pacquiao. And I was there talking to Cotto with Steve Kim in Vegas. And Steve Kim asked him that, why fight Clottey? Nobody wanted to fight Clottey. And Cotto said, that's what they put me in there with. That's what I had to do. He was there. But he fights Clottey 5 months before he fights Pacquiao. He fights Zab 5 months before he fights Mosley. You've always had those sketchy fights that fighters had to get through in order to get to the bigger fight. PBC tries to cut that process. And they try to build fights through rumors, social media, instead of the traditional way of just pitting dudes together in these mini tournaments and then having the big guys fight each other at the end. And this brings me to my point on Benavidez. And what I'm eagerly awaiting is, when's this Benavidez fight going to be announced? It's been almost 4 months since he last fought. We've heard many rumors of who he's going to fight next, and it seems to have shifted last week, right? From the outside looking in, things seem to have shifted the day before Canelo announced a 3-fight deal with the PBC. The day before is when we go from Morrell, we're sending Canelo all these big contracts via email, right? And then I don't know anything about an agreement with Morrell Jr. So what are we to read about that? And it brings me to this with the Benavidez temporary fans and Benavidez's handlers. You can tell a lot about a fighter by how his handlers handle him, right? So how aggressive will they be knowing that they now have Canelo shored up for 3 fights? Now will things shift? Now will the energy shift? We see how with fans, with the anti-Canelo people, the anti-Canelo fans, how the energy shifts once Canelo moves to a certain spot on the board. For a decade now, they've been moving the playing field around wherever Canelo goes. We call it moving goalposts, but they move the whole playing field. They go on in the middle of the night, they change the yard markers, they change the goalposts, they change the whole playing field based off of where they think Canelo is going to go. And then if Canelo goes in a different direction, they just shift the game board. That's what they do. They bend their own truth around whatever Canelo does. We talked about that. But now that the PBC has Canelo in for a 3-fight deal, what do they do with Benavidez? Do they go along with a tougher, trickier fight with Morrell Jr., or do they go the easier route to make sure that Benavidez does not mess up the Canelo versus Benavidez fight that I think they've scheduled for later on next year? I think Al Heyman has chessboard and he's completely controlling it. He knows which pieces he wants to put in certain spots. And I think he knows which guy he wants to come out on the top at the end of the chess game. He knows which piece he wants to be the checkmate piece. And I think that's obvious is Benavidez, right? He wants Benavidez to come out on top. So do they play it safe with Benavidez in the meantime? Or does Benavidez go ahead with the Morrell Jr. fight? And based off of that, I'll be able to tell everything I need to know about Benavidez and his team. And what do I mean by that? Over time, you trust who people are. It's not just boxing. You trust who people are. If they tell you over a certain period of time, I'm this dude based off of actions. I'm not reliable. I'm not dependable, or I am dependable. I am reliable. I'm consistent. You trust it. You trust their actions over a certain amount of time. So if a team has been behaving a certain way for 9.5 years, you trust that they'll continue to behave that way. But, and it's like this with the stock market. If a trend changes over time, you say, all right, we got something new here. We got some value here. And if Benavidez goes on to fight Plant, he fought Plant, but if he beat Plant, but if he goes on after that to fight Morrell Jr. this year, we've got something new. We've got something new with Benavidez. That's when we'll be able to say the track record has changed here. It's not just a one fight thing. This isn't just Plant. The Plant fight was the exception, them just doing the bare minimum to build up some organic talk. Now we have a 180. Now he's doing 2 straight fights in which he's fighting tough fights. We got something new here. And then you hope he continues to run with that, because who did that last year? Dimitri Bivol. He fights Canelo, fights Zordo, and then he goes right back to himself. He reverts right back to type. So even that can be faulty. So even when Benavidez, if he were to fight Plant and Morrell Jr., and say that's a great year, that's a possible, top 5 fighter of the year type of play right there, you still say, I'm still kind of hesitant here. If he does it a 3rd straight fight, you say, we got something new here. We got something here. I want to see if they fight Morrell Jr. next, or if they go the light touch. I don't love or hate Canelo. And that's what I'm saying. I was saying that earlier, Haplo. That's perfectly fine. You don't have to be in either faction. Some people are lukewarm, could go either way. I think he's a great fighter. I don't know if he's an all-time great. I don't know if he's top 3 Mexican fighter. All that's fair. All that's fair. It's when dudes swerve into other stuff is the problem. PBC are where big fights are made. PBC is also the Bermuda triangle of the big fights, as Nando said. Shout out to Nando. Is big fights get lost there. They get lost there. And dudes limp into big fights. So you say, finally, they get to big fights. Finally, they got to Spence versus Bud after half a decade. When they finally get to Canelo versus Benavidez, you say, finally, they got there. They could have done it a year or 2 earlier, but finally, they get there. That's the thing with the PBC is they'll make big fights, but finally, it's like pulling teeth getting them there. It's like pulling teeth, and none of it is organic. None of it's organic, and that's why it's not sustainable, and that's why they need a guy like Canelo to come around and subsidize a lot of their shitty product. They can't build superstars from the ground up because their part-time model does not allow it. The P in PBC stands for part-time. And you can't build superstars who are part-time fighters. Can't. And even if you do, Tank is now a guy you can say, yeah, I think he's a star now. We'll see what he does without Ryan Garcia going forward. We'll see what the numbers are. But even then, you say he could have been a much bigger star if they would have just marketed this guy correctly. That's the frustration with the PBC. That's the frustration. Canelo ain't got secret recipe. Great fights make great fighters. Benavidez can do it without Canelo. Step up. There you go. There you go. Just fight. Just fight. You know, there's a reason why when you marinate a fight with Caleb Plant for 5 years, it doesn't even do 100K pay-per-view buys. And there's a reason we're sitting there, and it's the frustration you see when you see Benavidez because we want to be a fan, right? There's really nothing other than he doesn't fight the fights. There's nothing to not like about Benavidez. Yes, the temporary fans are frustrating. Yes, they're trying to package him as something he's not. But you say with that guy, man, he's got star qualities. He's got marketability. He's mostly likable. He's got a fun style. If you simply just put that dude in the fights and just stop spending so much time trying to scam the market, just trust your fighters, you would have something by now. And if you would have simply kept your belt, you would have got the Canelo fight by now for Undisputed. It's the frustration, man. You sit back as a fan and you say, what's going on in those camps? What is going on in those camps? Why is there so much inactivity? Why is this happening? And you see what a great year boxing is having without activity. That's the thing. Imagine if we had activity. I was telling D-Style that last night. Imagine if we had activity. We're halfway through the year. It's July 1st. The top 10 pound-for-pound guys have fought a combined 6 times, fellas. 6 times. That's not normal. And we're still having a great year. The top 10 heavyweights have fought a combined 5 times in the first half of the year. And we're still having a great year. Imagine if these dudes actually fought. But Nando's right. The recipe, the blueprint is not tough. You put on fights. Boxing is littered with dudes who, it's the Mayweather thing. You don't have to have an O. Boxing is littered with dudes with a loss and multiple losses who were superstars simply by fighting the fights. And were marketable. And that's the Canelo thing, is he simply fights the fights, despite what these dudes are trying to get out here and make you believe the sky is green. He simply fights the fights. And the track record tells us that. And you always go off the track record. You know, another faulty narrative is that Mel has been disrespected. Mel is not, I think the public sentiment of Mel is correct. Mel's done great things. He's got accomplishments. He was on pound for pound list after beating Brian Castano. Why is he off of some pound for pound list now? He simply hasn't been fighting, fellas. It's been 13 months since his last fight, and finally we got an announcement. You can say that's an injury, but injuries are part of it. They're part of it. When we watch tennis, if a tennis player gets hurt and they don't compete in the Grand Slams, guess what? They're not on the rankings anymore. They drop the rankings, drop on the rankings. They're not winning Grand Slams. Why? They can't just hold on to their Grand Slam championships just because they're injured. Injuries are a part of it. The world has to keep moving. That's one of the tough things I've learned about life, is despite great losses, despite losing family members, you walk out the door the next morning with red eyes and the sun still comes up and you still see people laughing. That's one of the harshest realities of life that I got early on, is nothing stops for you. Nothing. And it's the same way in sports, and it's how sports kind of resembles and mirrors real life, is it goes on. You can't stop everything because a fighter gets injured. So when a dude doesn't fight in 13 months and doesn't have anything scheduled, he's going to drop off the pound for pound rankings. Or he should anyway. I mean, shouldn't you have to fight to be on rankings? Shouldn't you have to fight to keep belts? But this narrative that he's disrespected, I don't see it, because he's still got his belts. He's still got his belts. Tim Tszyu's been waiting. He's been waiting and he's been waiting. And he hasn't gotten a shot. And I think with Tim Tszyu, he'll get it through being elevated by the WBO, through unifications. And he'll be the guy to look out for now at 154. He's the big dog there now. He's the big dog there. And I wouldn't wait around for Mel Charlo. Hopefully the WBO does the right thing and elevates Tim Tszyu at this point. because I'm sure Tim Tszyu is frustrated with waiting. And I hope they go on and fight 4 times this year and do it in Australia. But at the same time, I don't knock Mel Charlo because he has accomplishments and he's doing something that anybody would do in their right mind. An opportunity has been given to him and he's jumping on it. He's jumping on it. And you can say, yeah, it's just about the bag, whatever. It could be about the bag, or he could really be daring for greatness here. And if he, after going undisputed at 154, becomes undisputed at 168, good Lord. If he were able to pull that off, now you got the possible pound for pound champion in JermEll Charlo. As crazy as that sounds, that's possibly what you got if he pulls it off. And he's probably going to be the second. If he did pull that off, he would be the second to do it after Bud Crawford. And here's another thing that I want to throw out there. And I run the risk of sounding sexist. Can dudes please stop? I see it on YouTube. I see it on Twitter. I see dudes ranking girls with dudes and pound for pound lists. And then every time somebody brings up the fact that Bud Crawford is possibly the first fighter to become 2-time undisputed, 2 different weight classes, they say, well, what about Clarissa Shields? You're disrespecting female fight. Dude, it's different. We're talking about male fighters. What do you not get? What do you not understand? Why do you keep throwing Clarissa Shields out there? And plus, you're comparing apples to oranges, not only with the sexes, but she fights in a division with 31 contenders, 31 females in her division, and over half of them have losing records. Can you stop? Can you please stop? Every single time. Oh, Mel Charlo could possibly be, a fighter who becomes undisputed in 2 weight classes. Clarissa Shields, why are you being sexist? Why are you not looking at Clarissa Shields? Why are you not giving the quote her just due? It's like, bro, I'm talking about male boxers. And when I'm talking about female boxers, I'll bring that up. Clearly, there's a difference. Clearly, we're talking about 2 different sports. It's both boxing, but we're 2 different sports. There's female tennis, there's male tennis. When a male player does something where he makes like 10 straight aces or something, you don't see a tennis fan or a tennis pundit come out and say, Serena Williams did it. He's not the first to do it because Serena Williams did it. Dude, we're clearly talking about male tennis. Kobe Bryant hits like 8 straight 3-pointers, and they'll bring up something like, Lisa Leslie did that for the Los Angeles Sparks. Why don't you talk about her? Bro, we're talking about male basketball. What do you not get? But these anti-Canelo dudes, I want you to pay attention to them and I want you to laugh at them. That's the homework this weekend. I want you to just go up and down YouTube and don't get angry at it, because that'll be your first reaction. When you see dudes saying, oh, look at him picking on the smaller guy. Oh, look at Canelo. He's ducking Bivol. Oh, look at Canelo. He's ducking Benavidez. Clearly, he doesn't want the Benavidez smoke. Laugh at him. Just laugh at him. That's your homework. Just laugh at him. Just, if you want, go to the comment section and put LOL, dumb, or something like that, and just leave it. But don't engage them. And don't become as miserable as them. It's a holiday weekend. Just laugh at them. And that's the beautiful thing about the Canelo fan base, is it's just basically just boxing fans who are happy. Not miserable, just happy. You don't have to try to convince people that the sky is green. You try to convince them to look up at that scoreboard, but you don't try to convince them that the sky is green. These dudes, their narratives are so bad. Remember that commercial with Walmart when it was the falling prices, and you had the dudes walking into Walmart and it was like falling prices, and they're like ducking all the falling prices, promoting their sales. I feel like that's what it is with falling false narratives from these channels and from these pundits. It's, he's trying to weight drain Bivol by bringing him down to 168. You're like, that one was wrong. He's ducking Benavidez. That one was wrong. He's ducking the Charlos. Wrong. He's ducking slick black fighters. Well, where are they? Where are the slick black fighters? Well, the Charlos. He fights the Charlos. Oh, not those. Not those. That one's smaller and that one's inactive. They're not at their best. Well, who's at their best? He should fight somebody at 168. Who? And Billy? False narratives. Just falling all. He'll never fight Golovkin. And they never look up at the scoreboard. It's just the false narratives just falling all over the place. They're tweaking, bro. They're tweaking. They want to talk about Canelo so bad. They're just itching to talk about Canelo. And then he wasn't announcing anything. And I saw him. They're just like, they're itching. They're just tweaking. They need Canelo talk. They need Canelo talk. And then Canelo announces Charlo, and there it is. Now they got their Canelo talk. And now they have to go behind the scenes and get their talking points in order. And flip the game board around to where it fits where they're at now with Canelo based off of where he's gone. And what I would tell you to do as just a boxing fan is just sit back and be happy. Just be happy. We got fights, man. We got fights, and we got fun fights. I think they did. I think they blamed them for the submersible. I think I saw that. We got fights, and you enjoy them. That's a beautiful thing. Shout out my guy Drew, the only Sancho on Twitter. We go out to the Canelo fights, and we just have a blast. We're enjoying all the Mexican concerts, the mariachi music, the beautiful Latinas. I made a mistake. I forgot my wife was following me on Twitter, and I mentioned how beautiful the Latinas out there. And I got that phone call. I got the text at 2 a.m. The Latinas, huh? The Latinas. You like the beautiful Latinas, huh? You like the beautiful. You're gonna like sleeping on that couch. I come home, try to give her a kiss. Why are you trying to kiss me? Don't you want to kiss the beautiful Mexican Latinas? But you just go out there, you drink Modelo's, and you just have a good time. Mariachi music. Mariachi Sol de Mexico, Mariachi Sol de Mexico, Mariachi Sol de Mexico, and you just have fun. And you just have fun. And you sit back and enjoy. Not only do you sit back and enjoy the beautiful Latinas and the beautiful cold taste of that Modelo on ice, and the Ginger King coming on the TV and fighting slick black fighters. Not only do you enjoy that, you enjoy watching these dudes just glitch. You just sit back and you just enjoy watching the Mexicans for Golovkin just glitch. And the LDBC just glitch. And the PBC Twitter dudes just glitch. And I'm trying to figure them out. They're an odd bunch because they should be happy because all this has happened on the PBC. And they'll claim I'm a PBC hater. I'm critical of the PBC. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a fan. But I'm happy. I'm happy he took the PBC deal. And I'm happy. Why aren't they happy? It's on PBC. Be happy. And I could just sit back and just be happy. And watch them glitch for no reason. That's the oddest part about it. It's just for no reason. It's like, dude, why can't you just watch boxing? If like I said, if Benavidez goes on this 180 and he fights Morrell Jr., guess who was gonna be the first one on the YTBC to congratulate David Benavidez for taking that fight and give him props, win or lose? And it's gonna be the first one to say, I love that fight. I love that matchup. And if David Benavidez beats Caleb Plant and Morrell Jr. in the same year, guess what? He'll be on my handful of fighters that I'm thinking about for Fighter of the Year, I think. And not only that, I got to be honest, beating Plant and beating Morrell Jr., wouldn't you say that's probably a better year than beating Ryder and Mel Charlo? See how easy that is? Why can't we just watch boxing and just keep it real? I don't understand. Why are these dudes glitching out? You shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have said that, Haplo. People should be happy for JermEll. He's getting his shot at history plus a Canelo Golden Stick. I am, man. I am. Mel's a real one. I've been a fan of his for a while now. I'm happy for him. I am happy for him. Don't worry, be happy now. Don't worry. Be happy. Don't worry, be happy now. Here's a little song I wrote. I won't know to sing it note for note, so don't worry. Be happy. Don't worry, be happy now. All right, I'll stop. Calix, who you got next weekend? I got still. This is a tougher fight for Virgil than people think. Emilio Estevez Stanionis is tough. He's a tough dude. He's coming off of appendicitis. I get it, but how many times has Virgil come off of rhabdo? And that's got fight of the year written all over it. That's two real ones right there. I love Virgil, man. Hopefully they got that under control, and what a fight that is. I'm looking forward to that fight. Y'all be stealing Modelo's out the store. What? People wait for what Canelo does, then criticize him. Yeah, they come in the middle of the night, D-style, and change the whole playing field. They move the hash marks, they move the lines, they move the goalposts, depending on wherever Canelo is on the playing field. That's what they do. Why can't they just be happy? I don't get it. Shout out to Jerry E. drinking a Corona. I've been known to put a little lime in my beer. Been known for that. The singing trend needs to stop. Haplo, there's two things Haplo is not a fan of, and it's Carl Froch and it's my singing, and I don't get it because both of them are great. Both are great. Talking about tweaking, man, I'm tweaking for Carl Froch to come back in some exhibition matches. You see me itching, right? He was calling out Connor. Connor don't want that smoke. I need Carl with his beautiful nose job, his beautiful wife, his beautiful son named Rocco. Carl with his perfect hair and perfect nose. I need him to come back with some exhibition matches just to piss Haplo off. And I can talk about it and I can sing at the same time. Mariachi Sol de Mexico. Mariachi Sol de Mexico. Virgil and Stanionis putting in work. Boots forever bubble wrap. And somebody was asking me, do I think he's going to be upset next weekend? I don't. It's tough to see somebody as frustrated as we are with Boots, of him waiting for the vacant process. That's obviously what they're doing, right? As tough as that is to watch, he is talented, and it's tough to see somebody that talented putting on two pedestrian performances in a row. So I just don't see him putting up a dud against Vila. I think he's going to show up, and I think he's going to style. I think he's going to style next weekend. He just fought a mandatory that has a better resume than Benavidez. Jerry, you're right there with us, Jerry. Like, we ask these questions, and then it's do-do-do. And you ask the question, do-do-do. You ask the question, do-do-do. It's getting harder and harder. You don't like my rendition of Mariachi Sol de Mexico? You don't like that? Your singing and Froch are both equal. You're right about that. Oh, the fanboys ain't going to like this. Whoa, the fanboys going to be mad. It's a weird thing they like to do, and it's so hard for them. Oh, the fanboys ain't going to like this. Whoa, the fanboys going to be mad. You're right. You're right about that. Oh, man. Where was the comment I was looking at? Let's see. I think that's why I didn't mean to click on that one. Yeah, I don't know. The Charlo sister is scared. I disagree with that. Mel's a real one, man. And I'm happy for Mel. I am very happy for Mel. He's getting his shot. And what I'll leave you with is this: trust track record. And it'll tell you exactly where we are, and it'll tell you why the chessboard looks the way it is. Because Al plays things like chess. Al is a chess master, and he has a chessboard set up this way for a reason, and it took him many years to get it this way. It took him several years to get the chessboard to where it currently is. And trust your track record on why the chessboard looks the way it does, on why these pieces are set up on the front, this piece is set up on the back. Always trust your track record on Canelo, that he fights the fights. And trust that going out into the future. And if you trust track record, it'll tell you exactly why each guy is in the spot they're in. Why Mel is willing to fight this fight and Maul not so much. Twice now. Why Benavidez is on the back end. Why Tszyu, although he's being let down here, is going to go on a run at 154 regardless. And it would not shock me to see him become undisputed by the end of 2024 at 154. It wouldn't shock me. I think he's in a great position. Track record. And the current track record with Benavidez tells us that they'll likely do a light touch next, but I hope, and I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt here, I hope they go ahead with the planned Morrell Jr. fight, because it'll tell us a lot. The next fight will tell us a lot of what the PBC really thinks of David Benavidez. And if they go through with Morrell Jr., then they trust him. And then you say, we may have something here. We may have something here. Because I'll tell you what, Morrell Jr., I understand only 9 fights, but that dude is a wild card. And when I talk to the insiders, when I talk to just hardcore boxing fans, they all seem to say it. Like, this dude passes the eye test. Yes, only 9. Yes, only 9. Yes, only 9 fights, but he's that dude. JermEll retired. Or you're joking. Now, JermEll, I think the thing with JermEll Haplo is this. I think he did not want to go into the Canelo fight on a 2-year layoff. So I would not be surprised in the next couple of weeks if they announce a fight. And it's a tune-up fight. And it's a tune-up fight for Canelo. And if they do announce a tune-up fight, that'll tell you a lot about who Canelo's next opponent will be. Right? So just pay attention to that. But the chessboard, it all looks like the way I thought it was going to look. And that's not an I told you so thing, because it's just, I think anybody in the chat could size that up, what the chessboard currently looks like and why it looks that way. I mean, I think it's just common sense. So on that note, man, I'm out of here. I appreciate y'all coming through on a Saturday. I'm not usually on here on Saturdays. I'll see y'all again on Monday for the aftermath. We'll talk about the fights. I'm sure we'll have more talk about the Canelo undisputed versus undisputed in the whole fallout. I'm out. Peace. God bless.